So we are especially sensitive to the plight of those most in fear of a Trump presidency, who are wondering if they or their loved ones will be deported today or tomorrow, or if the Klan is now emboldened to come out from under their sheets and begin lynching again, or if women-hating men feel it's okay to become more predatory. We know that the best thing we can do about that is make our anger known in the streets so they don't feel alone. The best thing we can do is organize their defense while realizing that this is also an opportunity that can give our movement wings. Well, I was supposed to analyze the elections, so this isn't going to be a page turner. But the first thing we should make clear is when analyzing these elections that this was no landslide. Yes, part of this vote reflects a dangerous presence of deep racism and sexism, but this was also a reflection of the desperation and anger of those who don't know who or what to blame and are lashing out, trying anything, even things that don't make sense, because survival has become so much harder under capitalism and global crisis. Although most votes came from white men who were used to being more economically and socially privileged, and the fact remains that Black and Latino and Latina voters came down strong against Trump, he was still able to get some support from a noticeable amount of Latino, and African Americans. All of this is partly a reflection of the level of consciousness of those voting for Trump regarding an understanding of the importance of solidarity. Wow, that light's bright. Especially with the most oppressed. That was our elections campaign. That's what our elections campaign was all about. Okay, here's some of the data, trying to back up my opinions. In the first place, Clinton actually won the popular vote. And if you look at the states that voted for Trump, who were the most significant states in terms of numbers of electors, you'll find that the determining states with more than 10 electors had just one additional percentage point in support of Trump. I'm talking about Wisconsin, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. If the wind had blown just a little harder, or a butterfly flapped its left wing instead of its right wing in those states, the opposite could have happened. Take Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes, plus Michigan's 16, plus Pennsylvania's 20, plus Florida's 29, that gives you 75. Subtract that from Trump's and you get 227 electoral votes for Trump, 232 for Clinton. Clinton would be the winner then. The results are still coming in, so these numbers may be changing, but the percentages remain. So it also shows how the more populated your state is, the more you as a member of that state are disenfranchised, especially if electors decide not to vote for whom they are supposed to. This is just one part of the rigged factor of these elections under capitalism. Not only do they not allow third parties a chance to get close, they've set up an electoral college that guarantees them an escape hatch. For example, the manipulation of electors back in 1876 allowed for the destruction of Reconstruction and an end to the racial and revolutionary governing of the black former slaves who temporarily were able to seize political power after the Civil War. When Samuel Tilden, the Democratic winner of both the electoral and popular votes, was denied the presidency by a section of the ruling class through the disqualification of electors, a concession was made to the party of the slaveholders, the Democrats, that troops protecting the former slaves would be removed from the South, allowing the former slaveholders, through the murderous terror of the KKK, to resume power. Actually, since the late 1800s, the money of the rich, beginning with the Vanderbilts, Rockefellers, and the Morgans, and others enriched from slave labor production of cotton, determined every branch of government. In fact, 95% of the time since then, whomever the majority of the ruling class support, and they go back and forth from Democrat and Republican, whoever they support wins. It's not your vote, it's their money. Sometimes there's a fluke. And perhaps this election falls in the 5% of the time since Clinton probably had the majority of ruling class support. But the result has to be acceptable to the ruling class or they will wipe it out with the many means at their disposal. An article in Forbes called The Revolt of Middle America, analyzing elections, said, America is a nation of many economies, but those that produce real tangible things, food, fiber, energy, and manufactured goods, went overwhelmingly for Trump. Trump either won or closely contested all the traditional manufacturing states, Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, and Michigan, where union voters did not support Clinton as they had Obama and where trade was also a big issue. And then from the November 11th analysis of the Telegraph News out of the UK, they said a key part in Clinton's failure to claim certain states was the fact that ethnic minorities and women didn't back her in the numbers initially expected. Here's an illustration. Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Florida were the swing states that had previously voted for Obama in 2012, but switched to Trump in 2016. But the Republicans gained only 3% more votes from 2012 in those states. The Democrats, on the other hand, lost twice as many with a 6% decrease from 2012. This was a vote against Clinton, who represented not only her and her husband's racism and thievery of Haiti and the mass incarceration, but the Obama administration's 8 years of record deportations, regime change, and attempted regime change, plus the continuing austerity and increased poverty and desperation of working people. And another thing, very important, more than three times more people than in 2012, it's about 6 million people, decided to vote for an alternative candidate other than the Democrats and Republicans. That's a big factor. What was going on in these swing states? Well, let's start with Wisconsin. Manufacturing jobs in Wisconsin were down from 500,000 in 2008 to 407,000 now. Employment growth in Wisconsin has been at less than 2/3 the national rate over the past 3 years. In Indiana, 543,000 manufacturing jobs have gone down to 515 now. And the Department of Agriculture found that between 2012 and 2014, nearly 15% of Indiana's population didn't get adequate food due to lack of money. In Pennsylvania, 654,000 went down to 565,000 manufacturing jobs now. 14.6% of working age women are in poverty. 19% of the children under 18 are in poverty, 14% overall. In Michigan, 593,000 went up to 598,000. We got 2 minutes left. So things all rosy in Michigan? Well, when you read about Michigan with the promises of future investments by auto industry and stuff, it ignores the experience of the most populated states. Take, for example, the experience of the larger counties in Michigan, like Genesee. I'm probably pronouncing these wrong. The future job growth over the next 10 years is predicted to be up to 33% more, but the income per capita is $23,000. That's less than the $54,000 average in the United States. In Kent County, it's 15.5% in poverty, and the national average is 14.5% in the U.S. In Macomb County, it's 27,000, and again, that's 54,000 in the average in the United States. In Wayne County, it's very interesting because Wayne went for Clinton, but the turnout was drastically down. Why was that? Well, the per capita income in Wayne County is $22,000. 24.8% of people earn less than the poverty level. It has one of the largest proportions of persons in poverty under 12 years of age at 25%. It has the largest white poverty rate at 15%. It also has one of the largest proportions of the black poverty rate at 37%. Michigan still hasn't recovered from those laid off by the recessions. Even if they found new employment, their paychecks are smaller. Even with the so-called and supposed economic rebound, per capita earnings in Michigan are 35th in the United States. The Forbes article encourages Trump to get closer to our class by increasing austerity, income inequality, global warming, and military spending. Yet that's what we workers really want, right? What we really need to have done is to further expose the bankrupt and rigged elections and push the building of our people's power assemblies with our allies to chart an independent course of our own making. Hell, we might even want to elect our own candidates. The hell with the mayor, the city council, and president. We can choose our own official leaders of our communities and barrios and dare them to defy our authority. Fortified with the masses of people like the ones who are marching the streets right now, demanding a new day, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Black lives matter. Brown lives matter. Solidarity is the glue that makes all struggles matter. Onward to building a workers' world.